was great. I had never seen that. And boy, you could sure tell it was Canab, couldn't you?
Yeah, I love DALTON, all that season. Very, very familiar.
Wasn't that great? No signal. Okay. I'd like to introduce my two sisters because I wasn't around that long with my dad, so if they have any other questions, they can help answer them. This is Darcy Hinton Cook.
Hello, hi,
And Marilyn Hinton Gabriel. Thank you all for coming to watch this, and the flag and everything is just a magical day. And the fact that his great grandson can be here, all the grandsons and everything is great. Do you have any questions? All right then, thank you all for coming. No questions at all?
Are these mics working?
Yes, they are.
We had no idea. We've never seen that movie of Daddy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Dad could ride that well.
Well, I was really excited about that myself. He sure was handsome, though. He looked just like Darby, didn't he? My father, since I'm the oldest one, it's no secret that all he wanted was a boy to carry on the Hinton name. And it is such a sad thing that he died just 6 months when my brother was 6 months old. Daryn and I weren't jealous, but he always wanted a son. And so both of us became tomboys to try to make up for it, but it didn't happen. But the joy on his face when he saw his son, and I know he's just soaring in the heavenlies, so proud of Darby and all that he's done, and you're doing for other people. You're an incredible brother.
Well, now I know why he was such a tomboy and trying to be so competitive with everything.
Always with you.
Always.
Always.
Always had competitive things going on.
I'm the middle child, so I let them be the competitive ones. Water skiing, tennis, everything, they were always one-upping the other one.
Well, I was one-upping on that.
Okay. That is not true. I was the oldest and he thought somehow he was in control. Just because he had a television series. And to make it worse, Veronica Cartwright got to play his sister and I was jealous as hell. I tried out for that part and I just don't know to this day why I didn't get it. And that's not true. She's an incredible actress and when she was saying all the great things she's been in, unbelievable. But this is such a special time for all of us and I want to thank you for this. I want to thank you, Darb. When my father died, he was only 38 years old. He was going back to do a big movie for 20th Century Fox, and his plane crashed in front of our eyes, and our whole world fell apart when that happened. The studio said, you know, you were supposed to play Ashley in Gone with the Wind, and that wild mother of ours had him over in Europe, and he couldn't get back in time. So his agent said, if you really, really, really want to work in Hollywood a day again, you rent yourself a seaplane and you take off. Now, I was 7.5, but I knew that things were good and he shouldn't take off because Mother was crying. I had this strange intuition as a 7-year-old child. And I begged him, I cried. I said, Daddy, if you get on that seaplane, you will never, never see us again. You're gonna die. And he said, oh, Marilyn, that was our mother, he said, you can't listen to your 7-year-old daughter. I've got to go back. I've really got to do this role. And if you could see us poor, little pathetic kids. This one was 4, this one was 6 months old, being held in mom's hands. And I was 7, and I thought, boy, yep, his body fell right there on the sand, right in front of us. They said he wanted to wave goodbye to us. He got caught in a draft and crashed right in front of all of us.
He took off, because I never understood actually until Darren's husband got old newspapers and stuff about it, because it was not something I really wanted to ask my mom about, but being a pilot, I couldn't figure out how from a little island in Catalina, you could crash when you're taking off and going to LA. There should be nothing but ocean between you. But what happened was he was at Avalon Harbor, and when he took off, he asked the pilot if he could just circle the harbor one more time so he could wave to us at the pier. And they have something called the California Eddy, which is all the wind that comes across the Pacific. It hits the top of those mountains at Catalina, and it rolls over just like a big wave. And that's what happened. They got into one of those big waves, and it just pushed it right into the cliff. And fortunately, I wasn't old enough, but yeah, these guys were all old enough to see it crash, and his body rolled down the mountain and land before. So anyway, on a happier note.
Yes, we're all together, and this is our first family reunion. Because when Dad died, there was only 3 of us. We don't have a big family. So we hear about all these great family reunions, and we go, well, it's kind of hard. So thank God we all got married, we all have grandkids, except for Daryn and Paul. They decided
They have their birds and cats.
Yes.
But yeah, there's Dad was an only child, Mom was an only child, so you know there weren't the aunts, cousins, uncles, any of that.
And it was literally our first family reunion we've ever had here at Kanab. And Kanab is really special to us because when Darby was doing Daniel Boone, we would come here and we lived here at Perry's Lodge. And I had my whole little set of girlfriends, and some of them had horses, and you know, would go to the theater because he was 6, so I was 9. And so it was 25 cents to go to the theater here, to go see the movies. And Kanab was just such a special place. But what's so strange is now coming back and seeing Kanab, the outrageous beauty that it is, the amazing feeling you get of just awe. And I don't remember that part. I remember all the fun we used to have. But this is so special in that you're the place that hosts our family reunion for the first time. Asheville, Hawaii, you know, we're coming from all over the place, Palm Springs, here.
And Indy came all the way from Switzerland.
Switzerland, she came in.
Darby's beautiful daughter.
Yeah.
Nick came all the way from Asheville.
Come on, family, stand up. We got Ryder, India. That's India.
Christina, Hawaii.
Sean.
Howard, don't do it for us, but could you stand up? 47 years of marriage to this wonderful man. God bless his heart. Love with me.
And my husband Paul, the Hawaiian shirt guy.
Sean, his wife.
Who wants me to write a check? We have pencils and paper, don't worry. Trying to take care of everybody, I love it. Yeah, and I gotta say that Kanab was really special for me when I got to come here too. Dad always been working on a set. Daryn and I became very close because I never went to school with you know, any other kids or really had
Best friends.
any other people my age. But when I got to be here, there were a lot of the local kids that I got to hang out with. And my mom felt so safe here that she just let me go run off and go with them. And it was the first time I ever went up and rang somebody's doorbell and ran. I didn't know that was something you did for excitement, but that's what all the local kids, oh, no, come on, do it. And if you really want to do it, you find a dog and you get a bag, and well, we didn't do that. We didn't go that far. But I did go up and I didn't understand it at the time, but rang a couple of bells and then ran and then hid and watched them come out. So it was really fun because it was a bit of normalcy that actually I hadn't had a chance to experience before. So yes, Kanab was a very special place for all of us. Yes?
How much of Daniel Boone was actually shot in Kanab?
The pilot, and then there was one, I know, Peachtree, and I think there was one other one, the Jericho, where he was running around the fort. He was doing some kind of race against the Indians. And I just recognized that as being the Kanab area too. So we only filmed 3. Most of the dark and bloody grounds in Kentucky was in
It
Malibu.
was in Malibu.
Yeah. Malibu State Creek, if you ever go there, which is the same place they did MASH and a lot of the 20th Century Fox.
That's under the Hollywood Hills or the what is it?
Yeah.
What is the time?
We did do Frazier Park, because it's close a couple of times. We went up there, but most of it was filmed in the studio or at the Fox Ranch.
Fox Ranch, okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say how funny it is to see your family. And I've known you now for 10 years, or 11, maybe since 2010, and I followed you on Facebook, and you're, generous enough to share this with us. And now you're all here in the flesh. It's just like, wow. So I want to thank your family for all coming.
Yes,
That's
we
what
do
we
too.
got.
Thank you,
Yes.
family.
And just so you know, it's not because I don't love her beyond words, but I don't get to share that much about my daughter because I have to ask permission, and she doesn't really like the sharing thing, so that's the only reason. Don't think I'm leaving her out for any other reason.
He loves her like crazy, are you kidding?
I have a thing for all my kids. What
All
can I
of
say?
them. All of them, that's great.
Yes.
Darby, you talk a lot about your mother. How did your mother and father meet?
Tell.
He was married to Maggie Roach. And if
Hal
you-
Roach's daughter.
If you know Hal Roach,
Interesting.
Studios and the producer, was his daughter. And she wanted to go and be a big actress. And he wanted a family. And that was a big sticking part in that relationship. My mom was one of Maggie's best friends. And she came and go, you know what, Marilyn? I really think that you and Ed would really, Maggie, I don't want your cast-off husband. What? No. And I guess it only took a couple of days.
But she said he's too good for me because he was such a good guy. I totally understand that because I was 13 years friends with my husband, even though my mother brought him home thinking that he should be my husband. It's like, no, he's too good a guy, he's too nice a guy. I like the guys that treat you like
The bad boys.
the bad boys. And so.
Nobody out there likes bad boys, do they?
Maggie was saying, this guy's too good for me in that way. She liked the bad boys type. She liked the Hollywood life, and she wanted to go off and be a big star. And mom and dad just.
And mom really wanted a family. I mean, if dad hadn't died, I'm sure we'd have 5 or 6 brothers.
She wanted 8 to be exact.
And they dreamed about the home they built up on Bel Air Road overlooking Los Angeles.
Which was so weird to see Bel Air Productions.
I saw that.
Yeah, and
It had nothing to do with the family.
but they also,
Or did
they
it?
loved the skinny dad. And so they built, they built, see where's more?
This is Canal Utah.
I know, it's so exciting, it's not a big deal anymore. But so they built a swimming pool in the middle of the living room. And then all their friends were all the fun, crazy people in Hollywood, like Tyrone Power, who's made movies here, which I just found out from looking at Perry's Lodge, named me. And then Jane Russell, these are all their good friends. My godmother, his godfather, Charles Ness. So those are all his friends. And they made the house like a jungle because all of their friends were making these Tarzan, Raymar of the Jungle movies. And so it was all this lush tropical forest outside on the top of Bel Air Road, swimming pool in the living room, waterfall, birds.
Let's not forget the big circular couch right in front of the fireplace.
I mean, just amazing.
You gotta dry off after you come out of a skinny dip.
And so we all had to
You
go
guys
to
also remember we did a big Playboy magazine layout there, and I had to hide you kids
What
away.
magazine did you say?
Playboy.
No,
Playboy.
Life magazine.
No, it was mine. It was also a Playboy with a star in the pool.
What? I missed that.
We all missed that. But, okay.
They never told me.
We also had to all learn how to swim before we could walk. Because There was a swimming pool in the living room, and people, every party, people would fall into it. I mean, it was so hysterical.
But anyway, to let you know a little bit more about our dad. He was so cute. Mom and Dad were like the Cinderella couple, I don't know. Always kissing, always hugging. Mother always said, I love you, say that to one another. So they had this fairy tale marriage and love that was going on. And she always said, never forget to tell someone you love them when they're leaving. And Mom was so, how can I say it? We lost her at age 58, right?
Yeah, she said she was 56.
We don't talk about it.
Anyway,
That
lost both
was
of
one
them.
thing. Growing up the youngest one between these two, and with my mom, I was never allowed to talk age. Because I never knew if Darcy wanted to be older or younger. No, there were times she wanted to be older too.
That's true.
Let's
Now I
get
don't want to.
But if I ever said the wrong age, these very sharp fingernails would go underneath the table and dig into my leg. So that's why I don't even talk ages today.
But anyway, Dad was such a big influence in my life, and what an incredible man. It is like he cloned Darby. And I just, in his mannerisms, I kept hitting Darby in the movie going, you make that move, you make that look. And it's unbelievable, Darby. You've really, really, really carried it on. And we're so grateful that you're still acting. I mean, it takes a lot of
I'm
courage.
still acting.
6 months old.
But I gotta tell you, one thing Mom did say about him, and it kind of definitely influenced some of what I do, is, like the plaque says, he was at Pearl Harbor. He came in early Sunday morning after partying all night Saturday, and he didn't want to wake his bunkmates, because there you had to crawl over people, because they stacked everybody in those ships, and he was on the Tennessee, which was one that was tied up to the Arizona. That's why the Arizona, when it sunk, it's not up against the harbor. There's that space. It's because it had the Tennessee in between it. And the Arizona took all the torpedo bombs. And that's why it went down. But he did say he saw his best friend burned to death right in front of him. He saw so many of people just get mowed down and killed. And he said from that day on, he lived every day like it was his last day, and just enjoyed it and found the good in life and didn't have time for any of the negative.
And loved you, baby, so very much.
All of us.
All of us.
I'm glad to see he's a good rider too. I think he handled that horse well.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yes,
So your dad was in the Navy?
yes,
Okay. And he stayed in the Navy all the way to the end of the war?
yes. He retired a lieutenant.
Wow, okay.
When he died, they gave him the salute in the air and everything, and the folding of the flag to my mom. It's very beautiful.
And I had his sword that was inscribed and everything, his dress sword. Unfortunately, got stolen out of the house. All I have is the sheet. The person that stole it, tried to hide it to make sure we didn't notice it was gone. But I have the sheet mounted up on my wall. One day it'd be great to find that sword again, because that was beautiful.
Young man, did you have a question back there?
I did.
Yeah, Ryder man,
This-
that is Darby's son. Darby's son is about to, and that's.
Hey, no, they all said hi to him when he walked in.
That's the most scary.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, because I agree you have a lot of the same mannerisms and everything, as I saw on screen right there, and I've never asked you this. In what ways were you inspired by his acting career, and how did that fall into your acting career?
I had never really, this is the most I've ever seen him on film. I really didn't know any of these things. As a matter of fact, when I was young, I remember once I had a young lady over, and it was like really late at night, and the TV was on and some black and white thing. She's looking over, and I'm like, who is that actor? I know him. Like, and she looks at me and goes, isn't that your dad? Oh yeah, that's him. All right. So, as far as that goes, no, there was really nothing I can say was a direct I'm gonna use this as steal this. I know that his early headshots he has. I have that up on my desk in my office, and I'll have people say, "Oh, that's a great picture of you. How did they get it to, look tintype like, or not tintype, but older like that and stuff?" But no, unfortunately, I never got to act with him. Oh, I guess I did. There's a picture of us all on a set together.
Yeah, I got to act with them.
I was in a
She was
dress.
out at Medicine Bend, and they literally, I was this big, and they fell on top of me, rolled in
The woman during the attack,
Well,
the
Peterson,
Indian.
that must be against the rules.
It really should have been. I looked back at that just recently for the first time and went, oh my gosh, maybe that's why I'm a little different.
But then also as a baby, she had to sit there and watch her real father get killed. You
And you
know?
don't understand that. You're an actress, and he's like getting shot in front of me, and then he dies.
With an arrow, and he dies very dramatically, going all the way down the wall and stuff, and you gotta be like this, and then cut, he gets up, the arrow's still there, hey, how you doing? So, yeah, I guess that's why we can all be a little weird. We definitely grew up,
We have
interestingly.
license. Okay, you have a question?
Yes, you all have beautifully unique names. Love them. Was that mom's idea, dad's idea, and
I just found this.
Would the 5 more kids all be D's as well if they would have?
On one of the Thursday check-ins that I do with the Darlings, and I had these two on, and we watched Lion and the Horse, which my father was in.
And my godfather was Steve Cochran, so that was great to watch that.
And then she mentioned her godmother and how she got her name, and it was and this was like 2 weeks ago? It was the first time I ever figured out how you got your name. Because it was Darnice Darcel. I don't know if you remember that
French
actress.
actress.
She's a French actress, and that's from Darcel is where Darcy came.
Okay, well, I have to do this just for a minute, okay?
Go ahead.
Is this all right? I don't want to scare you, but I feel my mom was so strong and here and did goodness and dad. But my mom was really famous too. She created Cheryl Ladd. She was doing a picture in Jamaica, which Darby was driving around in a car, God bless his heart, at age 10 years old, starring in, with David Ladd. And that's where Cheryl Ladd and David Ladd fell in love with one another and got married. And they weren't supposed to because I was babysitting his wife. I was told that that was my job on the picture and that was not.
He was the only married guy on the cast, too.
And then she went into a bar because this guy was flirting with my sister over here. And that was Chuck Woolery, and she said, "You're coming to Hollywood with me." And she was the agent for Chuck Woolery too. So my mom was known as the Annie Mae. They said she got about as many Christmas cards as Lawrence Welk. Hollywood loved her. Being a widow with 3 kids, we went through some rough times, didn't we? Our house burned down in Bel Air with no insurance money. Daddy was so young, there was no insurance when he passed.
You couldn't get insurance back then because it was.
Is that why?
It was after the Bel Air fires.
She was
Came
teaching
in,
school.
and then the insurance company said, "That's it, we're not insuring any of those houses up in the hills." And we had our fire between that. It wasn't until Reagan was governor that he put through the assigned risk where they had to insure houses.
Oh, and Reagan was our next door neighbor, and we did play in Death Valley days with Reagan, and that was
Dad
a treat.
was in Electric Theater. What was it? General Electric Theater? What was it called? A General Electric Theater or something with Ronald Reagan.
All right, I gotta tell you, you want a mom story? This is one of my favorite mom stories.
Our mother was
We're in Jamaica, because that's where we kept a house, and we loved it. Anytime I wasn't working, we went down there. Well, they were filming a little movie called Papillon. And there was an actor in there called Dustin Hoffman, who all of a sudden got very attracted to this redhead over here. And, Mom didn't exactly
My husband
approve of
is
it.
here, you know.
I know.
That's okay.
So, but this is, you won't tell anybody, right? So, they're out at dinner, right? Darcy's gonna go anyway, even though Mom said, no, you shouldn't go. Okay, so Darcy and him go to dinner. And Mom showed up. What a surprise.
Yeah.
And she came over, she said, oh, I'll let you kids be, but I just gotta tell you, I love your act. I think you're like one of the best actors out there. You are so skilled and talented, and I really hope your career goes. Mr. Pacino,
She knew exactly what she was doing. She did, because Chuck hated that more than anything in the world. I'm sorry,
you
Dustin
didn't mess
Hoffman
with Marilyn.
hated that more than anyone. Everyone says that. He said, I don't think your mother likes me very much. I said, it might be your age.
Might be that you were married at the time. Next question. You weren't married. No, he was.
He was not.
He was
He
too.
was not. I dated in New York afterwards. There was no wife. Don't you say that to your fans out here. I never dated a man.
You went to New York to date him, did you?
I was living in New York. That's how I met my husband.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my
The family
goodness.
secrets come out, man.
He got married afterwards.
Okay.
When it wouldn't happen.
We'll go with that one. Anybody else?
Tell us the story of how you got the role.
That's
Oh, the
a fabulous
leader
story. Thank you.
The
Doesn't
leader
everybody know that one?
The leader Jose.
Act it out, though, Darby, act it out. I mean, come on.
Ask it out.
Amazing
Get you my book. It was, what?
Later Jose.
It was, my mom came in, said, come on, we gotta get ready, we gotta get going. They want you down at Fox. They're interviewing for the Sound and Music, and here you gotta wear this. And she handed me a lederhosen, knee-high socks, the whole thing, and all the way from the top of Bel Air Road down to 20th Century Fox. She was teaching me Edelweiss and Noah Deer and how to sing. And unfortunately, one thing, and my sisters cannot disagree with this, is as wonderful as my mom was, she was late to everything.
Everything.
Everything. Her own funeral she was late to.
It's true.
So she was late, and we got through the gate, and we rolled up to the big casting building. Well, it was 3-story casting building right there at the head of Fox. And, she opened up the door and said, run in, tell them you're here. I'll go park the car, I'll come meet you. So I'm like, I'm 5 years old. So I ran into the building, saw a line of kids, and went, oh, okay, that's it. And I ran and I got in the line. And the secretary kind of does this, looks over at me, and it's like, come here. So she called me in front of all the other kids and goes, why are you, I said, oh, I'm Darby Hinton, I'm here for the role. And she looks down the list, and she goes, yeah, well, just wait here 1 minute. And she took, as soon as the next kid came out, she took me in. I'm sure it's a joke. Like, look at this little kid lederhosen in here for Daniel Boone, But she took me in, and I had just done the wagon train. So I was whatever. But it was, big desk, big office, big people, everything. I was like, okay, talking. But there was one really big guy who was very nice to me. The other guy started to laugh a little bit, and he calmed them all down. No, let's hear what this is and stuff. So the one thing I said to him, I said, well, if you do want me for this part, you can have me 2 ways. Because in the middle of shooting the wagon train, like I said, I was 5, I lost my front tooth, which people do at that age. But you can't match that in a show. So they had to make me what was called a flapper, which is a false tooth that you wear. Very hard to talk to when you have that in your mouth, but you're supposed to talk with it. But I had the flapper, so I said, you can have me like this, and then I ducked under the table, pulled out the tooth, or you can have me like this. And that was it. They all cracked up. They had a wonderful time. I open the door, I go out and I see Mom, and she's running up and down the halls, and she says, where are you? Where have you been? I'm waiting for you upstairs. I can't believe this. Where? I said, I don't know, Mom, but whatever's in there, I just got it. But it wasn't, as you know, I didn't get the part of this real boom. There was a guy, Bobby Horton, I think was his name, and he got his Raboon, which he was there for. This was the callbacks. This was, if you heard Veronica talking earlier when they did the cattle calls, they go from 100 kids to 75, 50 to them, and they whittle it down to, maybe there were probably 10 or 15 kids there that day. But he got that part. But Fess liked me so much, he said, come on, we can find a role for him. So they made me Nathan Boone. And if you watch the very first pilot, when Boone comes home, everybody goes, ah! There's two boys that run out of the forest, they come up and give him big hugs. And in the final scene, when they're walking away from the fort, you see Daniel, Becky, Jemima, Nathan on one side, Israel on the other side, walking away from the fort. But what happened in the middle of it, we had a very famous director, George Marshall, who was one of the old-time great directors, but would sit there with a bull, not a bullhorn, just a cone, you know, that would amplify his voice. And he'd yell at everybody, and he was one of those directors. For some reason, I liked him. I don't know if it was the male influence, whatever, but I would sit on his lap while he was yelling at everybody. And I thought it was great. I was like, his chair was higher than everybody else's, and I thought, this is the way to go. So he wrote in a part for me while the fort was being attacked, that a flaming arrow comes over and hits the powder keg, and I ripped out the powder keg and threw it and put it out, and I run back under the wagon, and Becky runs over and is like, oh, Nathan! And I'm like, oh, Mom, and, you know, go back with the kids. Well, the producers, directors, everybody saw it in the dailies, which is what they show the next day to the director and the important people, the set directors, everybody, to see, A, that the print came out, that, you know, there wasn't something blocking the lens or anything, and also to see continuity or whatever, however the shoot was going. So they watched the dailies, and they're like, well, this kid seems to be able to do it all, why do we need the older kid? So all of a sudden we went back and reshot the scene where she comes running over to me, and instead of oh Israel, it was oh Nathan, it was oh Israel, and from then on my name was Israel. And Dan only had one kid.
And you know how Darby did the part. And I don't know who believes about that mighty cloud of witnesses that watch us from the sky, that help us, or whatever. But for Darby to get that part and the way he got it, and then for Fess Parker to be his father when Daddy had just died. Fess was a father to us. I was at the set every day after school, and he was the one that taught me. I was 5'7" at 12 years old. He's like, put your shoulders back, be proud that you're taught. All those
She would always slouch. She didn't want to be taller than all the other
I didn't
kids.
want to because I was taller than all the boys. I used to dance with Whitaker in Cotillion. Johnny Whitaker in Cotillion. And he was this tall, Darby was this tall, and I was this tall dancing with them in Cotillion. Okay, so I slouched for a reason. Okay, but those stories in Daniel Boone, he was really like that. He was really that wonderful. And it was like Daddy orchestrated the whole thing and has been watching over Darby in his career our whole lives.
Well,
It's pretty exciting.
If you want any other little proof of that, Daniel Boone premiered the first show that aired on my mother's birthday.
Yeah.
September 24th. So yeah, I think there was some divine guidance there.
Oh, did Daddy play in Daniel Boone?
Daniel Boone goes way back. He's even in our bloodline. But
Oh my God.
he did one where he played Daniel Boone's sidekick. Daniel Boone was Touch Connors, Mike Connors from Mannix and everything. And Mickey Rooney was the director.
Wow.
Wow.
But,
That's amazing.
so Boone goes back a little bit in our family.
That's amazing.
Any other? What? Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to the sisters for setting up Darby's MySpace page, because that's
So long ago.
yes, but that's how I started following Darby. And honestly, it was like you that connected him to his fans initially.
Oh my God.
For the online people, you know, who didn't, and you know, and I only fairly recently, just compared to that, discovered the Western Festival. So you got it all started for us.
No, she not only got it started, she kept it going. She's the one that told me, you know, when you read, because I read all the comments, she goes, when you read them, you should just push like so you know, so they know you read it. You know, maybe even if you don't agree with it, but just so they know that you took the time and you read them all. So, no, Dara's been my social media person.
Yeah, and now I can't thank Ginger enough because she is just like an angel from heaven, helping him and with the shows and those.
They both know I need help.
I love those Thursdays. Those are just so much fun. Yes, I do enjoy them. I laugh
I
the
love
whole time.
Thursdays.
So do I. They are fun. It's like watching old home movies. It really is cool. And to see some of the actors that I forgot I got to work with. Just in the one you showed today was Strother Martin. And I saw Cool Hand Luke. I thought that was so cool. And I worked with him. So, yeah, they're all fun. We're having a great time.
I love seeing all of you on Facebook too, and I have all these great new Facebook friends. Thanks to you, Daryn and Ginger, for making the page for Darby and the Darlings. And who's all the dudes? Are you all the dudes out there too? That's so cool. Thank you for that picture yesterday. I loved it. My glamour was
James takes the best picture.
the best pictures. Anyway, you meant a lot in all of our lives.
All right, listen, we're at 5 o'clock. I know I'm not gonna empty the room and see if you have a button or anything else. So if you wanna stay for the Darbies, Darlings, and Dudes, you're more than welcome. I tried to think of something to do since I knew we've been doing Q&A and rather than just keep doing Q&A. So I came up with 21 questions about Darby to see if who would know it. And I got a little Bill Tillman with the poster and the book and the audio CD and all that for whoever wins it. I will say that a couple of my sons looked it over yesterday and did terrible. They really had a thing there. So they're passing it out. What we'll do is I'll ask the questions, or the girls here can ask the question, and then you circle what you think is the right answer, and then we'll see if anybody gets them all right. And I guess if we go to whatever, we'll see if anybody gets them. But I just thought this might be a fun way to do it.